with the follow-up email. And I don't know if everybody knows, but we have a YouTube channel we post these recordings to as well, so you can look at it there. So listen, everybody, welcome. For those of you who don't know me, I'm Cindy Olson, former CHRO and executive committee member of Enron and founder of the Executive Strategic Alliance. Just a couple of housekeeping items before we get started. Again, we're recording this, and you'll get the deck that Kevin uses and the recording in a follow-up email. And then please feel free to ask questions at any time. You guys, I'm going to monitor the chat, and Kevin's going to ask if there are any questions after every slide. So we'll be able to answer questions during the discussion. And also, we're going to try and leave time so that there's time for questions at the end. So for the past, just a little bit about ESA. For the past almost 9 years now, we've partnered with ADP to build this executive community of nearly 3,000 participants. We deliver world-class thought leadership and exposure to innovative technologies that are shaping the future of work. And we're unique in that we bring CHROs, CIOs, CFOs, and other work tech executives together because we believe that all must be in lockstep with each other to deliver the kind of worker experience necessary to attract and retain talent. And in addition to thought leadership, we also offer a first look at innovative work tech startups and exposure to potential startup advisory board positions. And finally, we offer a unique board positioning membership that provides all in one place the resources an executive needs to ultimately secure their perfect public, private, or startup board seat. And if you guys need any information on that, let me know in the follow-up email because I can send you more information about our board program. So today I'm really excited to welcome Kevin Kosher again. Kevin's been a thought leader for us for several years now. And I've worked closely with Kevin over the last few months to bring you all a look at the evolution of human capital management technology. He's going to share a slide later on in the presentation that caught my eye several years ago, and it really kind of takes us through how the HCM, human capital management technology, how it evolved. Kevin is with the Spencer Thomas Group. And if you'll notice, the tagline is the HCM people. They're agnostic. They work with all the HCM technologies. In addition to Kevin, really excited to have Tanya Oglesby, who's the Chief People Officer of AEG Vision in Dallas, join us. And she's going to talk about her experience and how the newest HCM technology has enhanced AEG's Vision's business. And before I turn it over to Kevin, I want to kind of share with you guys why this subject is near and dear to my heart. Some of you have heard this story, but not everyone. So in 1999, I was running the back office of Enron Capital and Trade and the corporate-wide culture group and diversity. And it was clear to me as a consumer of HR services that we were not keeping up with the fact that we had transitioned to what we called an intellectual capital company and needed a stronger focus on culture and talent. So I went to Skilling and Lay and I asked to lead and ultimately transform HR. And part of that transformation required automating the transactional side of HR to allow for a focus on culture and talent. And there weren't any really HCM integrated solutions at the time. So we built a proprietary HCM that was integrated with our SAP technology and ERP. So to monetize the investment, after we had finished and completed that technology, we bundled it with best-in-breed HR services and our people, and we're selling it as a managed services HR product to my CHRO peers at the time, which were Goldman Sachs, JP Morgan Chase, and American Express before we filed for bankruptcy. And with that, all of that innovation was lost. So 8 years ago, after I came out of the cave, I found the only HCM technology that had built, or a company that had built a managed services product like we had built way back in 1999. And they currently have the latest enterprise human capital management technology today, and that's ADP. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Kevin to take us through the evolution of the HCM technology and the business reasons why each step in that evolution was necessary. Kevin, it's all yours.
All right. Cindy, thank you very much. And good morning, good afternoon, everybody. Thank you for joining. We've been looking forward to this, Cindy, Tanya, and I for several months. So I'm just so excited we're here today. So my name's Kevin Kozer. I'm VP of HR, Global HCM Solutions at Spencer Thomas. Spencer Thomas is a professional services firm. We focus solely on human capital and payroll solutions. We are a global company. My practice really focuses on the system and vendor agnostic side and the strategy side of HCM and payroll technology. From a current perspective, we focus on business optimization, process improvement, things of that nature. From a future side, we do a lot of business case development, requests for proposals, ROI studies to help companies further their technology and improvements on HCM and payroll systems. I've been in this industry for just under, believe it or not, 30 years. I started as a developer. I was part of the first SAP HR payroll go live with American Airlines back in '96. And I've been doing this ever since. My focus for the first 20 some years was really SAP, Success Factors, Global View with ADP, and for the last 10 years, it's been very, very focused on system agnostic solutions to help our clients. So with that, I'll turn it over to Tanya real quick and we'll get moving.
Hi, thanks, Kevin. Tanya Oglesby here from sunny Dallas, Texas this morning. Super excited to be here. Again, as Kevin says, we've been looking forward to talking to you guys for some time. I've been in human resources for over 25 years, probably closer to 30, Kevin, as well. Hate to admit that. So started my career out at General Electric at a very early age in their customer service organization, and quickly made a leap as soon as I could over onto the HR team, and was fortunate to work for companies like GE and Bank of America, where I really not only learned to be a human resources professional in the very best of ways, but also, a great business partner into the organization and business leader and thought leader. And from there, I was recruited into life sciences and in that field. And I've worked in companies that build pacemakers or give you your new artificial hips or knees and things like that. And ever since I've joined the life sciences organization, I've always been with companies that do something to improve people's lives. I find that that's just where I thrive and where my values align. And today I'm sitting at AEG Vision. So it's a company. I'll go into that later a little bit more about that, but I've been there for 5 years and just thrilled to be part of that organization. I love organizations where I can come in and lead transformations or help companies that are experiencing rapid growth, going through M&A and building cultures. Those are the places that I thrive and I enjoy working with the most. So I'm excited to be here today and talk about a little bit more about our journey.
All right. So what we're going to do today, guys, we've gone through the welcome and introductions. We'll have Cindy step in for just a few minutes again to kind of talk about some of the history and story of HCM strategy. It was interesting to me. Enron was a former client of mine. I used to work for Arthur Andersen. And knowing Cindy and knowing what they were doing was very exciting at the time. It was very innovative. Unfortunately, we didn't get a chance to work together back then, but we are here today. But I think it's an interesting history and study of what she did and the vision that she had. We'll then go through like evolution of HCM systems. I'm a big history guy. I love knowing how companies started, why they started, and why they're there today and what they're doing. So we'll go through some of that. The latest HCM system, and I say latest, it's been around for about 5 years, but it's certainly one of the most innovative solutions out there, and that's ADP Lyric. So we'll talk about that. This is not an ADP Lyric sales presentation. Like I said, I'm vendor agnostic, so I've got good things to say about most of those systems out there. I've got some pros and cons for all, but this is a different solution, and we'll kind of talk about some of the reasons why and how it came to be. And then we'll go through the leadership discussion with Tanya and what she did with AEG Vision, and we'll open it up for questions. It's interesting. I've been able to see, Tanya and I got introduced because I've been able to see from the ground up her vision and how it has affected her practices throughout the country. My wife is a director for and a manager for one of the eye practices that is part of AEG. And so when I first met Tanya, it was really special to tell her, I'm seeing what you're doing. I see your vision at the ground level, and what you're doing is great, and what you're doing is being executed very well. So that's how we got to know each other, and I'm certainly sure that everyone's going to want to hear some of the things that she's done, and we'll get to that during that discussion. All right. I think this is Cindy. I'll turn it over to you. But when we were talking, one of the things you told me was that Ken, when Ken said that you realize the God-given potential that employees have and that people have, and that was really one of the visions that he had as part of this quote, and one of the visions that you guys executed at Enron. So I'll turn it over to you for right now.
Yeah, and I'm not going to spend a lot of time on this because I told Kevin I'm going to be it's going to be a teaser because I'm going to actually be a thought leader for this group in the next month or two, just because I'm working now with a couple of universities on interviewing 100 former Enron employees about the culture that they lived in at Enron. This is a unique opportunity to be able to talk to them about where did they go, what did they like about Enron, and to almost a T, everyone has said, I'd go back to Enron again. I never found that culture again. I never found that concentration of unbelievably talented employees. And so back to that slide about Ken, it all kind of starts with at the top, and everybody on this call knows that. It starts with the CEO and what the CEO wants. And Ken really did believe that he wanted Enron to be a place where people could use their God-given talents and really become more than they could ever become or thought they could become. And I've shared this with other people, but our voluntary turnover was less than 1%. I mean, we were a place where people not only came, but they stayed. And then we really were, I mean, this is kind of my history. I'll go through that more when I am actually the thought leader, so you guys can kind of see, how I worked with McKinsey. But I can remember several years ago when I started having McKinsey as a thought leader in this network. Neil Gandhi at the time introduced himself and he said, "Oh my God, Enron had the best HR in the world back then." I said, "Thanks, I appreciate that." And I think it wasn't just HR, it was just the leadership and the fact that we really valued the employee talent. And so the thing that Kevin asked me to do, which I'm not going to go into a lot here, is what were the accolades, that Enron had. And we were the most innovative company. We're the first one to be the most innovative company named by Fortune 6 years in a row. And what's interesting and I think almost sad is the only other company that's ever done that is Apple. No other company has been on Fortune's most innovative company list more than 6 years in a row. It's Enron and Apple, and that's it. So I'll go through how we created that culture of innovation because in 2001, when we had been named for the 6th year in a row, Ken got all of these requests from CEOs all over the world to come and talk about how we created that innovative culture. And I actually got to be the one that went out and trained their leadership team. So I've got that retro presentation that I'll go through and talk about how we did it and how it is applicable today. And with that, Kevin, I'm going to give it back to you. Hopefully you guys can join me as I'm the thought leader sometime in the next few months. Thanks, everybody.
Sounds good. I will take myself off and we'll move forward. Speaking of Apple, right? Steve Jobs. So the thing is, I have a lot of friends and clients, that are in HR leadership positions, and of course, the vision that they have, the leadership that they have is important. But really, we need technology to make those things happen, right? Technology doesn't start it, but it allows it to be executed by our leaders, by our leadership. So like I mentioned earlier, I do a lot of vendor selection and RFP work, strategy work, and 9 times out of 10 a CHRO will come to me and we're looking to do a new system replacement, and it is, I want one system to do everything. And this is a diagram I came up with several years ago to really, I agree with that. I mean, I think integration, I think single system is the best overall solution. However, there are some areas that, I think are acceptable to bring outside of this. So everything you see in the green circle square there, um, in my opinion, working with my clients, I think it's the best solution to have one system. However, if we look at this from an expat perspective, expats are very complicated managing them. And so my clients, if we have complex expat solutions or employees, outsourcing that to a Deloitte or a CAP is just fine. They manage these things very, very well. We don't need to have that internally. Recruiting and applicant tracking is another one. I used to think that the best solution was to bring it in-house, to bring it into a single solution. However, I've got a client recently that I've worked with. I've done the business case and the vendor selection for them. It's a company of 400 people. It's a thought leadership government group out of New York and DC, and we're putting in a new HR system and payroll system for them. 400 people, but they have 80,000 applicants a year, which is something I mean, it's just absolutely insane. And so we needed, and we kind of broke out the selection process to find the best of breed from a recruiting and applicant tracking side. And I think that was the best thing, certainly the best thing for them, given the nature of volume that they have and how they're managing everything manually. We'll talk about, improvements there coming up, but it's, again, there is no best practice of system landscape. Learning is another one. A lot of the systems that we have out there, they're good. They can provide decent, learning solutions and learning tools. However, we've got the cornerstones out there and other, select groups that really specialize in that. And again, a best of breed solution in that regard, I think is good. Workforce management or time management. It used to be, I'd say Kronos. I mean, there was no one that did anything better than Kronos from a time perspective. Now, with UKG, they do very well. ADP is also very strong on the workforce manager side from a time perspective. So if you have a core system, but you need strong, powerful time management or workforce management, building those interfaces, designing that process is perfectly acceptable. Again, I say this because usually when I do these selections, my CHRO or my leadership says we want one system, bring us one system. We can do that, but that doesn't necessarily mean that it's best practice. Payroll, obviously no one does payroll better than ADP. So, there's a lot of solutions out there that are very strong from an HCM perspective. But if we want to outsource, to ADP or another company for payroll, it's perfectly acceptable. Before I move on, Cindy, do we have any questions on the chat with regards to kind of a best practice designed of landscape?
No, I don't see any, but Kevin, there's one comment, and I don't know if that still exists. You guys can all see his screen, right? You can see Kevin's screen, because there was one comment, somebody couldn't see your screen. Okay, that's it. That was it.
All right.
Thanks, Kevin.
So business drivers, so one of the things, I've been very lucky in my career. Again, I started in 96, and over the last 30 years, right, what I've seen is a transactional system of SAP and HR and payroll migrate to strategic, right? CHROs are now on the board. They are now part of the leadership of companies, the war of talent and the management of our employees. That evolution has been extremely interesting, and I'm very lucky to have been a part of this over the last 30 years to see this. Different business drivers in HCM technology. So we've got our typical corporate ladder. Most companies still do this, right? We have our hierarchy. but we're moving, especially in a global level, we're moving to more of a corporate lattice type of structure. A person doesn't necessarily have one manager and one team, right? What we're doing in, managing our talent is we're taking someone with a skill set and we're putting them into the places that they would fit best and improve our bottom line and our development best. That could be from a global level, it could be from a team level, but we're becoming much more flatter and more collaborative as companies go forward. Employee engagement is obviously critical. This was always important. It obviously got driven through the pandemic as well, and really exposed as to engaging our employees. Cindy's comment of, what did you say, Cindy? Less than 1%
Yep.
turnover is phenomenal. And I think every HR leader out there would give anything to have those type of numbers, because we all know the statistics and the cost of replacement and losing people, losing especially solid, good people and talent, and having to replace, retrain, restructure. It's interesting. So I'm a big believer personally in, working together, working in an office, working, with my team. However, everyone is, again, the pandemic really changed this. And when we start talking about, not only in this area, but in others as well, but when you start talking about your competition and retaining your people and keeping your people happy and at work, here's some statistics about just the flexible work options. And companies are going to put themselves at risk if they don't have some sort of flexibility. Now we're seeing what, Musk is doing and others, and demanding to come back, come back to work, but there needs to be some flexibility there, in my opinion, to retain your people, because guess what? Your competition is going to say, hey, here's what we're going to offer that your company doesn't. So just things to keep in mind there. Non-traditional payroll. I personally think this is one of the biggest, it's simple, guys, but I think this is one of the biggest game changers in the last several years. And I'll give you a story, and this goes back to Tanya and AEG. My wife had an employee that she found out was living in her car. And she was very concerned about this. And the girl said, well, payday, this is like a Tuesday or Wednesday. She's like, well, payday's not till next Friday. I've got an apartment lined up, but I can't pay it. I can't put anything down. And Jody was so concerned. But then I told her, I was like, wait a minute, you are on Lyric. You have this thing called Wisely, this pay card. And the next day she was able to pull the funds that this girl had already earned and give her a pay card, give her money that she had earned, and she was in the apartment the next day. Imagine the loyalty that person still to this day has for this company. And again, the employee, going back to the employee engagement and how you can help your employees. A simple tool, again, it's vision, but it's technology. And here's a technology that can change lives for some people. And I got to see this firsthand. It was pretty exciting. The other thing, of course, is AI and machine learning. All of our solutions out there now, Lyric included, but others, Dayforce, Workday, SuccessFactors, Oracle especially, right? So much heavy development in AI and machine learning, which is really changing the game in HR and payroll, especially when we start talking about things such as, let's go through our payroll process, right? Our payroll team spends Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday reconciling payrolls and going through all this rigmarole to make sure that everything is correct. The systems are doing this for us now, right? And what is that doing? That's saving time, that's saving effort, it's more compliant, and it's also allowing us to take our people and move them into more strategic, better directions than just transactional work. So these are four areas that I'm seeing are huge business drivers in the latest technology.
Hey, Kevin, before you leave that slide, there's a hand. Nikki, do you have a quick question?
Yeah, I just have a quick question, Kevin. I just wanted to ask, what do you think are the drivers in there being, at least in my opinion, so many HCM solutions. I recently went through evaluation process trying to find HCM, and I was a little bit overwhelmed of all the pay. So it was like Paylocity, Paycor, and SAP. I mean, UKG. There just seemed like there were so many options, and it just took a long time for us to really evaluate and figure out what were the specialties. But I just wanted to ask you if you felt like there were some drivers and there being so many offerings. Again, at least in my opinion, it felt like a lot of offerings to evaluate and to decide on.
Yeah, so I mentioned this earlier on my journey right over the last 3 years. It's interesting for me, and it's wonderful for me right now. There are so many great solutions. It used to be 10 years ago, 15 years ago, that SAP had absolutely, drivers that separated them from the others, and all the other companies. There were certain things that they could do. So SAP, for example, retro calculation, they were one of the first to really do that in payroll. It was powerful. It was a differentiator. Now, all of these solutions are so good that what we do is we look at like the pain points that the customer, that my clients are going through, and we try to find those solutions that deal with those pain points the best. One of the differentiators that we see now is a lot of the AI and machine learning and the things that certain solutions can do. We'll talk about Lyric. The interface and the way that Lyric manages the matrix structure, I think, is the best in the business. Dayforce has a really good automated, continuous payroll to do the reconciliation that we talked about. So it really depends on what the needs are. What I've also found, Nikki, is that a lot of my clients, I used to kind of cast a wide net right when we started the RFP process of, here are the 12 companies that we think could be a good fit, and narrow it down from there. A lot of, what my clients are asking of us now as HR leaders and knowledgeable is come to us with the top four, and we'll just take it from there based upon those needs. Service level, to kind of finalize and finish the answer. Service level also becomes very important. Some companies provide support services, but a lot of them don't. And so the need of the client, if you need support services, ADP, again, this is not an ADP sales discussion, but they, provide services of all shapes and forms. Others, such as Oracle and SAP, don't have internal support systems. You have to go to third parties to do that. So, but the really cool thing is when I bring forward a lot of these technologies as options for my clients, there's not as much differentiators as there used to be, because everyone is innovating faster than they have before.
Thanks,
Makes
Kevin.
sense? Okay, cool. All right, so the topic of this entire session, the evolution of people management. This is a diagram that I put together with Cindy some years ago. We've done this talk a few times, but I think, again, I'm a history nerd, right? So I love looking at where everything has evolved and how it's evolved. So what I've got here, we won't go through everything. And again, everyone's going to have a copy of this deck to take a look later, right? But again, HR wasn't strategic. It was welfare. It was labor. You look at from the 1900s, 1910s, so on and so forth. Then we got into personal administration. Then we got into human resources, then human capital management in the early 2000s. And then we started getting into strategy. We started having, really the human capital side, but, CHROs are now leaders in the organizations. They are relied by, the CEO relies on the CHRO as much as the CFO these days, right? And the war on talent and making sure that the direction is correct. So you look at those dates and everything. It started with record keeping, kind of going back down, right? All we were doing was just maintaining records. Then we got into integration. That's when SAP came in 1986. You can see there they started, and SAP's real big push back in the day, and again, I was part of this, was integration. SAP would give away the HR and payroll modules just so they could sell the other ERP solutions because everything was integrated. Well, not the greatest solution, but the integration was huge there. Then we started moving into cloud. I was actually at SAP headquarters when they announced the acquisition of, you can see down there, when SAP buys SuccessFactors in 2011. because SuccessFactors was destroying SAP. Workday was destroying it. The cloud world was coming into play. And I had so many of my CIOs that were concerned. I'm not going to put my stuff out in this in this cloud up there where I don't have control and I don't understand, where it is and how it's managed. But that's all it is today, right? This is the development. The talent and analytics was huge, and then of course we've gotten into the AI technology. But you look at the employee engagement roadmap here, and again, I'm not going to go into everything, but you see certain things. In 1945, the first HR focused degree was at Cornell. I find that very interesting because Dave Duffield, who some of you may know or may not, but Dave founded PeopleSoft and he eventually founded Workday, and he's a Cornell graduate, right? So there's got to be some sort of interesting history there. We see a lot of these things coming into play, the National Labor Relations Act and all these things. ADP started in 1949. People don't realize Ceridian was not too far behind in 1957, right? I mean, these are, we can see kind of the evolution of some of these companies and where things started. Now, when a company brings me in to do an RFP or a business case and help on the optimization side, the first thing we want to eliminate is this, right? Paper was invented thousands of years ago, and we're still using it. And unfortunately, we're still using it to manage our employees in some cases. And the risk and the compliance issues and the effort is staggering. So first thing we want to eliminate, of course, is paper. Secondly, 1970 US patent number. This is for the patent for the first spreadsheet. And the number one system that I want to eliminate with my clients, and the number one system we want to eliminate, are spreadsheets. We want everything to be in the system. We want it to be integrated. We want it to be smart. And I cannot tell you, not only, the worst, of course, I'm sure a lot of people are aware and have seen it, is when you start talking about the compensation model and the spread of comp on our annual cycle and doing it through spreadsheets. It's never not been a disaster. So we want to eliminate spreadsheets for sure. The big game changer, and this isn't necessarily HR and payroll related, although there's certainly a correlation, but again, talking about Apple, Cindy, right?
Right.
The iPhone was released in 2007, and it is, I remember working with clients and saying, okay, we've got all these options on our solutions on these devices. Yeah, but in our plant, a lot of our people don't have these phones, so they don't have these devices. It's, not everyone has. They do today. And every good solution, and Nikki, kind of to your question, there's not a solution out there now that doesn't have capabilities of mobile work, whether that is sitting at home and going through a vacation request, whether that is sitting at home and going through other transactions, whether that is a geofencing solution so that you don't have to swipe into a clock every time you go to work. The system recognizes the geofence as part of your device, and we've saved clocks, we've saved time and effort and errors that affect our people. Another interesting thing for me is you look at 1998, the war for talent with McKinsey. I mean, people talk about the war of talent like it's something new. This was in 98, right, Cindy?
Yeah, and exactly. We had McKinsey side by side, McKinsey side by side, and that's what we were talking about in 1999 was the war for talent and how do you keep it?
Yeah. So a lot of innovations, and you can kind of see the trends here. The last what we're going to talk about today is in 19 ADP releases Lifion. Different name now. We'll go through that, but you can kind of see before I go to the next slide, underneath there, we've got that kind of HRIS competitive consolidation. What we've seen certainly from the late 2000s and on is a lot of mergers and a lot of acquisitions, right? A company has a great, Workday has a great solution from an HR perspective, an HCM perspective, but not so much on learning. So they go and buy that solution. SAP has done, used to be very integrated internally with SAP, but now with Success Factors and other, they've got a lot of bolt-on solutions because they've bought systems and companies that complement overall. I was actually part of, I was managing an implementation for a Fortune 100 company. We'd done the vendor selection for them, and they had selected Ultimate Software as their HR and payroll system of record in North America. And they were also implementing at the same time Kronos Dimensions, which was brand new at the time. And the company asked me to kind of oversee both projects from a, kind of sitting in between the steering committee and the PMO level. So I got to witness, the Dimension solution and the Ultimate solution being brought in at the same time. Little did I know that shortly, thereafter, these two companies, and I knew both of the CEOs and the founders of these firms, that they would form and become what is now UKG, again, as part of that competitive consolidation. An interesting thing, and I'll get into it in a minute, with the Kronos implementation is Dimensions was so brand new at the time, but there were a lot of errors, and there were a lot of things that were not working, and they pushed through. And that was tough for the clients or certainly my clients, because if something's not working, like standard overtimes or certain things of that nature, it was tough to move through. They eventually got there. It's a great solution, but it was tough at the time. Certainly, I think we have a question.
Yes, Susan. She's
Yeah,
got a
yeah.
question.
Hey, Kevin, how are you?
Hi, Susan. How are you?
I'm good. Kevin's
Probably one
worked
of
with
my
us.
favorite CHROs.
Kevin's worked with us a couple times in two cases to recover from an implementation that wasn't going so well. So here's the question. I absolutely experienced this consolidation, and I was always of the mindset, right? I like fewer systems versus more. However, in an environment where I think more and more of these specialty solutions and in some cases best of breed specialty solution companies are emerging, they're really thinking about how do you integrate on these large platforms. So the question is, how do you assess a big platform that's merging in and buying up a bunch of stuff to create a single solution versus an individual company selecting its overall HCM platform and then itself identifying what's best in breed for it?
So that so that to my previous slide, right?
Yeah.
And so my recommendation is, when we can have an overall integrated solution, we're going to give up maybe a couple of things. Maybe there's a system out there. I'll give an example. Maybe there's a solution or system out here that literally is best of breed of compensation, right? I think it's worth really giving that up, having the compensation module integrated into the employee record so that everything is integrated, right? Versus having another interface or another solution out there. There are areas where I think that, especially like I said on the green side, that it would be a better overall landscape on a best of breed. But what we don't want to do is have a smorgasbord of best of breed solutions that are all integrated together,
Okay.
because it's difficult to manage, it's expensive to manage, and most of the time it doesn't work. When there's a purchase or an acquisition,
Mm-hmm.
I have to rely on the vendor. I have to rely on the company that they're going to develop and maintain the integrations correctly. I had to deal with this when SAP bought Success Factors, because those integrations did not go well initially, and a lot of companies really suffered through that. So just because an acquisition is made, or just because, you still got to give these firms time and trust that they're going to integrate it the right way.
All right. Yeah. And that was really kind of the genesis of my question, Kevin, and maybe not so elegantly said. You can either have Workday or SAP or one of the large platforms decide for you, and then they're buying and having those tough integrations. and maybe then are responsible for them versus, a company making some choices about what it wants to integrate. And it does, to me, beg the question of, for these smaller and best of breed solutions, and there's some really interesting things out there. I think that a lot of them use AI better, is whether or not they are kind of making it a priority to be a great integrator. So that's why I asked the question.
Good point. And before I move on, when we talk about AI machine, that real guys, the biggest focus there is recruiting applicant tracking side. That's where chatbots and the AI, there's such a push in that area versus just core HR or payroll. And thus, let's take advantage possibly of some of these different partners. We want to make sure the ERP, do you have standard integrations with such and such core system? If we have standard integrations that are proven and developed, then that's a better move forward. And that kind of gives us a good confidence in moving forward with them.
Okay, super. Thanks.
Hey, Kevin, just a time check.
Yeah.
We want to make sure that Tanya has a chance to chime in. We got 20 minutes.
I'll go through this stuff. Yeah. And guys, we again to you. So I'm going to kind of speed through a couple of things. This is really just a quick overview roadmap of Lyric and how it started and why. One thing I'm going to highlight, you can see that we had the global pandemic in 20, and ADP suspends further sales and projects for further development. This was during the pandemic. I mentioned Kronos earlier, how they pushed through and it really caused issues. Was incredibly impressed that ADP had the fortitude, the strength, and the confidence to suspend not current companies and things that were groups that were live, but to really to stop things, to develop the gaps that were identified. And you better believe in 2022, you see that when they released it, it was ready for prime time. ADP was never going to do this twice, so it's a really, really strong solution. We go from from Lithion into next gen. We all know the branding. And finally, I was at the HR Technology Conference in 24, and ADP announced, what we're in this solution now is Lyric. Some differentiators. Now you can see down at the bottom, the reason one of the reasons we're talking today is with this solution. I'm sure a lot of if you know, Josh Burson is really kind of the leading voice in our technology and analytics, and he's very impressed with this platform. Lyric it's flex. First of all, it's flexible. Like I said, it manages the Latfix, the matrix probably better than any some out there. Obviously there's intent driven. There's a lot of AI tools and a lot of solutions that are built in for ADP for the technology side. The human focus is very strong. Like I said, made mention earlier, the Wisely pay cards and a lot of the things that it's able to do. And it truly is a global solution. So depending on where the employee sits, it doesn't matter. What we need to do is find them and put them in the positions that are most successful for them, most successful for the company. And this system does this very, very well. We'll now move to Tanya. And again, I picked this because it was interesting, ground level that an HR leader, a CHRO, or people, chief officers' vision was being executed at the local level. And this is one thing that Branson's was really strong on, is you treat employees well and your company is going to succeed. So with that, Tanya, I'll move to you.
Tanya, I can't hear you. For some reason.
No, I can't hear you, Tanya.
How about now?
Yes.
Okay.
There, we got you.
All right, great. Okay. No, I love this quote. I thought my CEO came up with it. So, but he's a bit of a British fan, so I can see But yeah, he always said that if he ever got to design a company, it would be putting the people first, and you'll see that in a minute. And then if we treat our people right, then they're going to treat our customers right, and then results follow. And that's absolutely been the case with AEG, and it's been a joy to support an organization that's shaped like this. Kevin, I'll let you go to the next page, and I'll quickly go through it. But the next page has, our values. And let's see, can I advance, Kevin?
Kevin,
Or-
can you advance the?
There we go. Thank you. You see, I put this here. I know everybody has core values and things, but people first truly is our biggest, our kind of our first and foremost value in the organization. And you would be surprised at the really strategic or critical business decisions that we use that value as a lens to make the decision about whether or not it's the right course forward. So let me tell you a little bit about AEG and what makes us unique and why that led us to Lyric. But we are an organization that buys optometry practices. So if you think about your local eye doctor that you may have been seeing for some time, we go in, we buy that practice and make them part of the AEG family. And today we started this business in 2017, and today we have right at 470 locations. Give me a couple of hours and I'll tell you we have 472. We do about 70 to 85 acquisitions a year. So when I say we're in hyper growth or acquisition mode, we are always in acquisition mode. Kevin, I'll let you go to the next page, and I'll keep talking a little bit about AEG and who we are. But yeah, we're 470 practices. We're in 26 states. Again, give me a month. I think we're going to be in 28. We're slowly but surely taking over the rest of the United States. And again, if you were to try and find an AEG practice or go look for one of our businesses, you're not going to find it. What you're going to find is it's still going to say Dr. Olson's family practice or the Kozer family practice or whatever the name is. And that's what makes us unique from a My Eye Doctor or an America's Best or any of the other consolidators out there. Is we truly believe we bought that practice for a reason and a value and that name and that neighborhood and community that's been there for a long time, and people want to keep going. Think about how, I talk about it. Most people, there's a pretty high retention for people when they love their eye doctor, that they keep going back to that same doctor year over year. And so why would we take their name off the door? And that's compelling for the practices and the doctors that have built this small, their businesses, sometimes small, sometimes not so small, but we let them keep the name on the door. They keep their legacy. They're still practicing, but what they get to give up is all that horrible back office stuff that they don't love to do. They don't love billing. They don't love insurance. They don't love the scheduling. They don't like ordering the frames and that sort of thing, or making sure that they've got enough contact supplies on hand. Optometrists don't go to college to become business people. So we usually can help them and find better ways to do that. And I think that makes a very compelling proposition for them when we come in and we talk about buying their practices. And we have a list of practices. There's 30 on deck right now and more that want to join AEG. So at any given time, we've got a lot of people that we're talking to make sure that they're going to be the right fit for our organization, fit in the culture. But it's an exciting business model to be part of. It's a lucrative business. A third of our revenue comes from when you get your exams, and a lot of that's insurance and that sort of thing. And then the other third is from buying your eyeglasses or your contact lenses at the organization. I'm going to get Cindy to become a big customer of ours soon. So, but yeah, there you go. But yeah, you tend to come back every year or so for that appointment. And it tends to be, because we're not lens crafters in the mall, or we're not, selling the buy one, get one glasses. It comes from our patients tend to have either more disposable income or insurance, private insurance that they can use towards their purchases. So again, part of our offering is a common platform. And that means that when we take over a practice, And we take over a practice day one on the HR side for sure. And the rest of the implementation comes a little later, but we're taking over their IT systems, their supply chain merch, their billing, and again, most importantly, the HR system, and I'll get to that. But today, again, 470 practices. We're getting close to 5,000 employees. We'll be there before we know it. And then one of the things we talked about retention, we've got an 86% retention on our doctors, which is just phenomenal. So we're doing, as Kevin said, we're doing something okay. But let's go to the next slide. And because I think what you guys want to hear is, why did I choose Lyric, and what benefits have we gotten? And I will preface this by saying I'm not going to talk about who my last provider was, but I'll tell you a little bit about them. I just don't feel comfortable, kind of name dropping like that. But the first reason was cost, and quite simply, what they had was a per paycheck model that they were charging us. And if you guys think about, I'm adding 70 to 80 practices a year. Each practice has 8 to 10 employees. So, 700-800 employees a year. That per paycheck hurt. Where it really hurt was they would not accommodate bonuses or spiffs on that paycheck. So they would run a separate paycheck every payroll, and 80% of my population, it was on a bonus or spiff. And so 1.8 paychecks per pay period per person. I did the math, and if I had kept that provider, I would be spending over $2.5 million on payroll provider services today, just for the administrative part of it. And it's just, I can tell you, I am well south of that number today. I'm on a per employee per month model with ADP, and cost, just being able to save the organization millions of dollars over the last 5 years has been number one. The second reason is reliability. If you've ever had experience with acquisitions, it's an emotional transaction. And with our philosophy of taking employees on day one, there is something very valuable. It's in having that information. The employee sees themselves on when they log into ADP day one to do a time clock. Their information's there, their salary's correct, their PTO is there. Having that not there is their very first experience as a new AEG Vision employee. When it's not reliable, they don't trust us. It's from day one, they don't have that sense of that they're going to be taken care of in our organization. Data is the other reason that I chose Lyric. I needed a system that was going to be the source of truth. For our organization, we were absolutely not the source of truth. I could not provide my organization reliable data that fed our business systems, fed our strategic thinking. And I need my hands on data all the time live. And Lyric has been able to do that for me. And then finally, I don't think we shared this, but I was number 2. Gold's Gym was the number 1 Lyric client, and I was the number 2. I was the crazy lady who went second, but we did it during a pandemic, but it worked for us at the time, because it was the system was growing and developing, and we had a lot of say, and we've got a lot of pride in Lyric, because we were able to try things, pilot things, give feedback, or, if we needed an enhancement, it was absolutely, let's do it. And it scaled where we needed to scale, payroll being the first thing we had to tackle and make sure that was absolutely right, and data. And then we've been able to bolt on. The benefits, I'll let you go to the final page, Kevin, on that. It has been, I'm going to go the same 4 factors, but cost, like I told you, I have saved there was over $1 million in savings in the first 4 years. And again, today, as we grow, that number continues to be almost year over year. I'm delivering close to that savings. Again, not real savings anymore since we switched, but if I had stayed with a different pricing model, it would be very different. Our payroll errors, I know this sounds crazy, but they are less than 1%. It is phenomenal what we're able to do. I agree with Kevin. They are world-class at doing payroll, and where it used to take over a week, my team can process payroll in less than 2 days. And that's for 33 FEINs, not to, if that, you know, it is where it's a lot of FEINs, and we're able to process that in just a couple of days. And I can get in offline about why we have so many FEINs, but it has to do with the practice of medicine. I used to have, for every one of those entities, 7. I would need 1 employee per 7. I'm down to about 1 per 10 right now. And I'd say that probably is going to be 12 by mid-year. Data is fantastic. That has been a benefit for me. It is live anytime I go in. I've got a great dashboard I can look at and get real data at any moment. Every night it feeds into our business systems. So my IT systems, my sales systems, the bonus, the systems that are operating at our practices, it's refreshed every evening. And now I'm able to provide data at people's fingertips where they're not coming to HR for reports. We created customized dashboards for our executive team. Each of our regional vice presidents has a dashboard that they're able to get their district or region specific information. And we're moving into AI. Lyric has a lot of AI built into their reporting and analytics, but we're now able to export some of that. We're doing pretty cool things with other business data, like we're trying to predict when a doctor might turn over, and is there something we can do in advance? And we're getting smarter about that every day. So more and more to come on that. It's intuitive. It's easy for our employees. I don't have to train people on how to use it. They can go into their mobile app or online day one and figure it out. It's kind of got that Amazon feel to it, where people can navigate it easily. We talked about Wisely. I have huge adoption for that. I've got a workforce that I know lives paycheck to paycheck. And so that having access to their earned wages has been such a huge game changer for so many people. Again, we're adding modules all the time. I think we're almost fully baked in right now, but we've got compensation, talent management, recruiting management, those types of things in there. And then I will say that I always tell the team, if they ever change this, then we're going to have a talk at ADP, but the secret sauce is their client success model. And I really feel like the partnership with ADP has been fantastic. They are right there. They're an extension of my team. Not everything always goes perfectly, but when it's not, I get all hands on deck to help us fix it, whether it's, you know, inputting things side by side along with us. But they've been so responsive and so great. Anytime we say we need something different. And that's my piece. I think I saw a question, but
Hi, Tanya, this is Susan. I know we're at time, but I just, when you were rattling off the integrations that you have to your IT system and your sales comp system. And so should I also take that? Does it integrate into your finance system? Because to me, that's always been such a gap. Yeah.
It is tightly linked with our GL and our finance team. So absolutely it does. And we also link into like Concur for travel and things like that on their side. But building out that enterprise and building out your GL structure so it can integrate in your finance system, critically important. So yes.
Super. Thanks.
Kevin, do you have any final words, any final comments?
You know, I think unless anyone else has questions for us, certainly, and I think, Cindy, it's fair to say if anyone has questions afterwards, our contact information is obviously here. This is not just ending in the next minute and a half. This is going to be something that, you know, we're going to be available to the audience and to everyone participated here really at any time. To kind of go back to Nikki's first question, the time is one of the big differentiators between these, you know, what solution versus the solution is, you know, the script you talked about with ADP's services and support. That's certainly a critical area to look at when you're evaluating new systems. What do you need internally? And that, you know, support can certainly be kind of that fork in the road of one, you know, solution versus another. There's other, you know, there's obviously technical, you know, advantages and things of nature, but what I'm seeing is that's becoming one of the biggest forks, is the level of support that a company expects and wants.
So Kevin, we are at time. Thanks to both you and Tanya and everybody that joined us. And you're right, there will be a follow-up email, and Kevin and Tanya will be copied so you guys can reach out to them if you've got further questions. And then the recording will be in the email as well. So thanks for being here, everybody. Look forward to seeing you next time. Thanks, Kevin and Tanya.
Thank you.
Thanks,
Cindy.
everyone. Thanks.
Bye.
Bye.